Hello, I hope you're doing well. I wanted to do a reading vlog because I've been in the mood to talk about books. I recently came back from a really wonderful trip. I got to see so much beautiful artwork, and I got to visit the pyramids for the first time and just spend time with family. I also picked up a bunch of secondhand books and a new book as well. And so I'll share that before I talk about the book that I'm currently reading. So, two of the books that I picked up are for someone else. One of my friends really likes this writer. His name is Omar Tahir, and he's an Egyptian writer. And the books that I picked up for me include Things Fall Apart. Things Fall Apart is one of my dad's favorite books, and I've always really wanted to read it. I just haven't picked it up. The back says that it's a simple story of a strong man whose life is dominated by fear and anger. The next book I picked up is The Vicar of Wakefield. So I picked this up because I read the first page and I found it pretty funny. I also read the back and it spoke of the narrator quite a bit. So I think that the narrator has a very distinct voice and personality. I'm a fan of stories where the narrator has a very distinct personality. I just find it very amusing and it just adds another layer to the story. The next two that I picked up are by George Eliot. I've never read anything by George Eliot, so I got Silas Marner and Adam Bade. I'm not sure how to say it. I've always been very intrigued by George Eliot's personal life, and I just find her as an individual fascinating. I believe that she used a pseudonym for several reasons. One being that if she had a male name, people would take her work more seriously, and also because her own personal life was a little messy. She was living with a married man for over a decade. I think that the man was separated from his wife, and so they weren't together, but since she was with the man, it just didn't look good to other people. And so she was a bit of an outcast in society. This is the book that I'm currently reading, and it's the book that I need to finish today or tomorrow, since tomorrow is the due date, and it's The Late Mattia Pascal. This book is ridiculous, but in the most amusing way. And I'm having so much fun reading it. From the first page, honestly, I was laughing, and I've been laughing since. At the same time, it's quite dark, and so I'm really impressed by how the author managed to balance those two things. The story follows this man, Mattia Pascal, and due to circumstances, he is pronounced dead, and everyone that he knows believes him to be dead. So, what does this man do? He basically takes this as an opportunity to start his life over. He moves away from everything that he's ever known to a different city, and he starts his life over. He gives himself a name and he gets acquainted with different people. You basically follow him on his journey towards freedom and happiness. The book raises a lot of really interesting questions, such as what does it actually mean to be free? And what is the cost of freedom? What is the cost of you as an individual being able to do whatever it is that you wanted at any given time? What will you have to give up in order to be able to live life free? The book also talks quite a bit about identity and how, even though this character is given a second chance at life, he's still himself. He still has the same flaws and shortcomings as he did in his previous life. And how will that affect his new life? I'm really enjoying it. I haven't really picked it up much the past few days because I've been so sick. I'm still sick right now. Like, my ears are blocked, and so if I'm screaming, I can't tell because I can't hear myself properly. Today I have a bit more energy, and so I'm just gonna sit down and read this book for a bit. maybe make myself a cup of tea. So I forgot to mention one last book. I also picked this book up. It's My Dark Vanessa. I have heard a lot about this book the past few years, and I've really been wanting to read it. It follows Vanessa. She's a woman who, when she was a child, was groomed by her English teacher, I believe. And a journalist wants to talk to Vanessa about this English teacher. So I'm going to be heading out to the library very soon to return these books. But first, I wanted to talk about them. The only one that I didn't finish is this one. It's Damien. I read the first few pages, and I do think that I will really like this story, but I'm not in the right mood to read it. And so I've decided to return it, and when I'm ready to pick it up, I'll give it another shot. But I would hate to ruin the experience of reading this book just because I'm not in the right mood. The next book is The Possessed. This is translated from Polish. This story took me by surprise. I picked it up without knowing anything about it, and it was ridiculous and absurd, but in the best way possible. Essentially, the story follows this young tennis instructor, and he's hired to train with a daughter of some aristocratic family. And beside their place of residence, there's a castle that's haunted or suspected of being haunted. And the story sort of goes off from there. I really enjoyed the journey that this took me on, and I also quite liked the discussions revolving evil and the nature of evil. And so this is definitely going to be a story that I will be revisiting. Next, I also read To Live. To Live is translated from Mandarin. This, of all the books that I read recently, is probably the one that I learned the most from. Due to the time that I spent in China, I obviously have some knowledge about its history, but I feel like it's very surface level. And so I really wanted to deepen that understanding. And I believe the best way to gain an understanding of a country's history is to talk to people and also to read stories. The beginning of this story is at the time of the Second Sino-Japanese War, and then you watch how the main character struggles for his survival and his family's survival during the civil war between the nationalists and the communists, and then after that the formation of the People's Republic, and so on and so forth into the Reform era, which was around 1980. So this story is about this main character who's old, and he's reflecting over his younger years. And in his younger years, he was very arrogant, spoiled, and just an awful person, honestly. And then a bunch of things happen. He ends up losing his family's fortune, and from there, his life becomes that of struggle. I did not get that attached to the main character, but I got attached to his family and the people around him. And honestly, I learned a lot from this story. And so, although it wasn't a happy one, I'm glad that I read it. The book that I finished reading this morning that I talked about a bit already is The Late Mattia Pascal. This might be one of my favorite reads of the year, which I'm very surprised by. I'm really glad that I read the afterword. I'm not gonna lie, I'm very bad at reading afterwards and also introductions. But I really liked the afterword in this novel because the author was basically talking about how initially the reception of this book wasn't that good because critics felt like the story was too ridiculous. It was too unbelievable for people to be able to gain anything from it. And he wrote something that I feel like is worth reading out loud. Life, filled with shameless absurdities, has the rare privilege of being able to ignore credibility, whereas art feels called upon to pay attention to it. Life's absurdities don't have to seem believable because they are real, as opposed to art's absurdities, which, to seem real, have to be believable. Then, when they are believable, they are no longer absurd. An event in life may be absurd, a work of art, if it is a work of art, cannot be. It therefore follows that to criticize, in the name of life, a work of art for being absurd and unbelievable is sheer stupidity. In the name of art, yes, but not in the name of life. Got this for my friend. I hope she likes it. I picked up 5 books from the library and I'll just talk about them really quickly. So the first one is The Lover. I picked it up because I was intrigued by the opening of the book as well as this line. Very early in my life, it was too late. I also picked up The Fawn by Magda Szabo. This will be my second book by her. I read Catalan Street and I really liked it. And I believe this follows the story of an actress. I also got The Razor's Edge by Somerset Maugham. I read Of Human Bondage and I really liked that book. And so I wanted to read another one of his works. I believe that this book tells the story of a man in pursuit of meaning and truth in his life. And so I'm just intrigued by that. And I also quite like the title. I picked up this book, Her Husband. So yesterday I finished The Late Mattia Pascal, and that left a really good impression on me, and so I wanted to try another one of his books. I believe that in this story we follow this married couple. The woman is a writer, and her husband, I believe, works alongside her, or he's also in the literary world somehow. But you follow them and the dynamic of their relationship during a small but vocal Italian feminist movement. And so I was intrigued by that concept. I also picked up Fathers and Children. So this novel is about love, politics, society, strong beliefs, and heated disagreements, illness and death. It is the generational divide between the young and the old. And those are the 5 books that I got. I'm very excited.